Let's focus on now how we can add some interactive elements to bring to our design to life. If you are following along with me, you want to have step 3, define interactivity in the practice file, visible on the design canvas. In this step, you'll notice I have included 2 artboards, and the one on the left is much taller than the one on the right. This is simulating a classic web browser experience on a mobile device. Web browsers tend to be fixed in width and variable in height based on the amount of content that you are showing, the way that website handle, that is, they allow you to scroll down on the screen to see the content below. In order to simulate what would happen in a real web browser, what I want to do is define what's known as the viewpoint height. For the artboard here on the left, to match the default size on the right, to determine the size of the artboard on the right, I'm going to click on this title, Chairs Detail. And here in the Properties Inspector, I can see it's a height of 812 pixels. Next, what I will do is click on the title of the Gent collection, the longer artboard, and back in the Properties Inspector. What I want to do is to move down the scrolling area. There's a drop down there. I'm going to select vertical, and then in the viewport height field, I'm going to define that 812 pixels and then type return on the keyboard. What you'll notice on the design canvas is how I have a handle here that indicate that the viewpoint height is for the artboard. I'm going to leave it where it is, but I could always press and drag to visually change. What that height is based on the content of my design. Now that my content is pretty well set, I'm ready to define the interactions between my artboards. For interactivity, I want to switch to phototype mode. Here in the upper left-hand corner of the app, next to design, I see prototype. I'm going to go ahead and click on that title. Now, the interface predominantly stays the same. The differences will be the way content is selected. As you can see here on the canvas and the Properties Inspector. In the Properties Inspector, my choices now have to do with interactivity rather than design attributes. I'll go ahead and click off on the design canvas to deselect that first artboard. Now, what I want to do is have it such that when the user clicks on first title, it takes them to the detailed view for this chair or the second artboard. The way I can connect the two together is by dragging a wire between the two artboards. For that, I'm going to come here to the first artboard, and I want to click right on top of the Shuru chair icon. Notice here in the layers panel, I have the product Shuru group selected. If you are on a different layer, you can just click there to make sure you have that one selected. As I mentioned, the selection color is a little bit different in prototype mode. It is defining a hotspot or a click area that my viewer can use to navigate to the next artboard in my design. It also has a little arrow here on the right-hand side. This allows me to drag wires or define interactions. For now, what I will do is click on the arrow and press and drag. Pretty much anywhere on the second artboard. When I release and come to the Properties Inspector, I can see what my interaction options are. For the most part, we're going to stick with the defaults initially. So the trigger will be tap. Under type, I want a transition that transitions basically to that chair's detail artboard. And that's all fine. Under animation, it's set to default. Easing, you can choose what you like here. I'm going to go with ease, in and out. And the duration, I will stick with 0.4 seconds, which is nice and quick. If by chance you happen to click off accidentally and lose that wire, you can always get it back by clicking on the artboard. I can see the wire is still there. It's grayed out or disabled. If I roll over it and click back on it to select it, I can go back and make these changes if I need to. What I want to do next is have a navigation that brings me back from that second artboard to the first. For that, I'm going to come here in the chair's detail artboard and click on that little closed box there towards the upper left. If you have trouble selecting it, you can come to the chair's detail artboard and click on that first group icon close. With this selected, I'm going to basically define a slightly different interaction. So rather than pressing and dragging my wire, I'm going to click and release right on that arrow. I get this cute little tail, which is right. That's what I'm expecting. With this selected in the Properties Inspector, I want to trigger it again to be a tap trigger. But under action in the type area, I want to go ahead and select previous artboard This is kind of magical in what whenever the user clicks on that closed box, it's going to take them to the previous artboard that they navigated from. I'll go ahead and select previous artboard. But we don't need to make any other changes here. With that all set, let's take a look at what the user experience will be like so far. What I like to do is bring up my prototype in the desktop preview window. Before I do so, I need to let the preview window know where to start in my flow. I'll come here on the canvas and click on the Gente collection in that first artboard. With it selected in the upper right hand corner, I'm going to click on this play button, which brings up the desktop preview window. Now, this is a live window into the work I'm doing on the canvas. So I could switch back over to the design mode and to start changing the content within my artboard. And see the finished product and actual prototype. In this window at the same time. For now, I want to come in and test my interaction. So here, within the desktop window, I can press and drag it to scroll down on the screen. I see a scroll bar here on the Macintosh that appears. If I scroll down a little further, I can get to that title where I have the Shuru chair. Notice when I hover over that title, my pointer changes to a cursor. This lets the user know that it's an area they can click. So when I click and release on that, I got a nice transition to that detail artboard. When I'm done looking at the artboard and I want to dismiss the window, I come here to the upper left hand corner and just click on the close box. Once the cursor changes, taking me back to the first page.